Okay, I'd like to reconvene the regular council meeting for Tuesday, March 25th. We'll go straight to our development reports and the remedial action order, and Mr. Dulvett, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to seek council direction to proceed with 3 different enforcement actions for 7311 Hilborn Street due to the continued issue of unapproved occupancy without final inspection of a permitted building that has since expired, and to address the ongoing safety and structural issues with an existing non-permitted building that's been on the property. As background, and before I pass it on to Tristan Hammersley, our senior building official, council previously discussed this subject property at its meeting of November 28th, 2023, where staff was seeking council support for enforcement action for an existing unpermitted building on the subject property, being a storage and farm worker accommodation building. Following a September council meeting, council proceeded with a remedial action order to lock up this portion of the building with the closing of entrances and the disconnection of power, which was completed willingly by the owner in early November of 2023. As well, on November 28th, 2023, council passed a resolution deferring the decision to place a Section 57 notice on title on the subject property until April 30th, 2025. Because that date's approaching, that's one reason why staff is bringing forward this item for council's consideration today, and to provide time of notice to the owner if council wishes to proceed with direction to proceed with the Section 57 notice on title at this time. For the new facility, the cherry sorting facility, building permits were issued in March and May of 2022, and these building permits have now expired and not been renewed. Despite this, the owner has proceeded with unapproved occupancy of the new cherry sorting facility for the past 2 sorting seasons, first in 2023 and the second last year. The District of Summerland enhanced its enforcement efforts in 2024. First starting with do not occupy notices in March, and then a letter to the owner provided in May, and then repeated issuances of bylaw enforcement fines from June 2024 to August 7th, 2024 inclusive. To date, the total balance of these unpaid fines for these bylaw enforcement fines is $25,500. In a recent conversation with district staff last week, the landowner offered to pay the outstanding fines over a scheduled repayment period, but these fines still currently remain outstanding. A recent site investigation of February 24, 2025 of this year has confirmed that the new cherry sorting facility is still being occupied without the required inspections and the necessary occupancy approval from the District of Summerland. I will now pass the presentation to Tristan Hammersley, who will explain the 3 enforcement actions that we are recommending proceeding with at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. We are seeking a remedial action order on the new cherry sorting facility at 7311 Hilborn Street. This remedial action order to disconnect water and electrical services within 30 days of written notice, and if the building has not been brought into compliance. This measure is to enforce the do not occupy order until such time as the district can issue final occupancy. The landowners have operated for 2 seasons, as spoken before by Brad, without occupancy and against building officials' orders. There has been no observable progression on the now expired permits in the last year, no updates from the coordinating register professional, and district concerns have not been addressed with regards to exiting and mechanical ventilation, along with other items. The permits were issued with commitments from the registered coordinating professional on record in the form of schedules A and B. The district cannot issue occupancy until the registered coordinating professional has issued schedules C, A, and CB, their assurance that the project is complete. Further, district fire and building officials have noted items of concern, including but not limited to the fire separations and exiting. These are life safety concerns. The sections of the community charter, the building official, myself, is requesting the authority to place the remedial action order is section 72, 1A hazardous conditions. Section 73, 1A, that hazardous conditions being a building or a structure, and section 73, 2B, the building or structure contravenes the provincial building regulations or bylaw under section 8, 3L of the charter. Darren will speak to the second proposed resolution.
Thank you, Tristan. The remedial action order staff are recommending contains a stepped approach to address the concerns with the cherry sorting facility. We've chosen this approach to allow the owners an opportunity to bring the facility into compliance while creating some contingencies should the required work to bring the facility into compliance not be achieved. The first in the order is to bring the building into compliance by completing the outstanding work required to gain occupancy of the building within 30 days of written notice. Failing this, the order states that water and electrical services be disconnected from the building in an attempt to prevent continued illegal occupancy and use of the building. Finally, if despite the disconnection of water and electrical services, the owners continue to occupy the facility, the order allows staff to seek remedy through the courts, either through a consent order or an injunction. A consent order is where both parties agree on the terms of the order prior to a hearing and file the agreement with the court registry. Generally, no appearance in court is required, but a judge does review the agreement and will sign the order. Our lawyers have indicated that the cost of a consent order would range between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on the time and complexity involved. These costs are generally not recoverable. If the property owner breached the consent order, then the district would apply to the court for declaration of contempt. If successful in contempt, the district would be entitled to special costs, which would be 100% of its legal cost for the declaration of contempt. If terms for the agreement for the consent order cannot be reached and the actions proceed to a summary trial, costs are estimated at $20,000 to $25,000. A summary trial uses affidavits, not witnesses, and is the quickest way to get a resolution. Upon a successful application, the district would be entitled to its costs, which worked out to be approximately 30% of the actual legal costs under the rules of court, and our lawyers estimate that this would be between $20,000 and $25,000. As with the consent order, if the terms of the court order are breached, the district would apply to the court for declaration of contempt. Due to the cost savings for both parties, it is common to come to an agreement in terms for a consent order prior to a court appearance. And I'll send it back to Tristan to speak about part 3.
Thank you, Darren. We are seeking to place a section 57 notice on title as a tool to administer British Columbia Building Code and the District of Summerland Building Bylaw. This section 57 will serve as a disclosure mechanism, protecting future owners and other parties with an interest in the property. The building of concern contains a structure built with permit that never received final and occupancy, and said permit has expired in 2007. Further additions were constructed without permit and without requisite inspections. The building as a whole is not to be occupied, and the structure deemed not safe for its intended use as per the June 17th, 2022 report provided by Riding Engineering. The district has not been able to gain compliance with regards to this property for almost 18 years. The property owners have not followed their compliance agreement dated March 18th, 2022, or the do not occupy order dated May 24th, 2024. The landowners have not maintained clear and open dialogue with the building department. That being said, I would like to add that they do respond when we do engage with them, and they have maintained the do not occupy of the structure in question for the section 57. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you very much. Turn it over to council. Are any questions? Councilor Barkwell.
What leverage do we have to collect on the fines that are outstanding?
So we can send it to collections. We do lose a percentage, of course, of that. In this case, as Brad mentioned, they have approached us with a payment plan. The payment plan is contingent on them operating this year, though. So that's where it is. But our option right now would be to send it to collections.
Okay. Councilor Van Alphen.
Thank you. Question through our Director of Planning. Can that not be added on their taxes?
I believe this type of fines are types that we cannot have it recoverable through taxation under the community charter. Otherwise, we probably would have been doing that by now. I don't know, a director of finance is probably the most appropriate person to answer that question, but what I've seen in my experience here, as well as at the regional district where I used to work, is that in order to get sometimes payment, we do have to send to a collections agency.
Councilor Peak.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Mayor. Well, they're interested in getting a plan in place to pay the fines. What are they interested in doing in getting the building done? Like doing the remedial action? Has that been a finite discussion with them? And if so, what is their suggestion?
I can speak a little to that. They did communicate via letter, I believe, to council. Is that correct? To the district, sorry. Where they have a proposal of demolishing the building after so in the fall, I guess, of 2026 to, basically 2 seasons from now. So that would be the unpermitted structure. And they have come up with a proposal to address some of the issues for the sorting facility. But we haven't heard anything from the registered coordinating professional on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for acknowledging me on the online participation. My question, so just for clarification, back to our building inspector. So is it the case that the parts of the building that were boarded up with the fencing that remained unused? Because I thought from the report that they were maybe using the lower floor, the main floor in some capacity. Can you speak to that just so I'm clear?
Yes, thank you. I did attend the property recently. The residences are not being used as far as my perception. There were other spaces upstairs that had the appearance of being used for storage, although they were supposed to be locked off. And the downstairs, there is a section that is fenced off, but not the whole of the building, and other parts of the building that are being used. And it is my understanding that there was a little bit of a discrepancy in Dimitri Hoffer's understanding of where these lines were being drawn. My understanding, though, is that the whole structure is in question as per the writing engineering report. But you're correct that some of the lower section is being used and some of it is not.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, may I follow up?
Please.
And so, thank you. So the buildings that we're more so talking, the building that we're talking about here today is more about the cherry packing facility, which is currently operating without a permit in its completion.
If I may. The section 57 that we are referring to is the unpermitted structures. And that would be the third resolution. The first and second resolution refer to the packing facility, which is operating without occupancy. Yes.
Thank you for that. I've been reading into the material, and we did so much research last time as well when this came before council back in 2023, and we gave the next generation of the family some time to come up with the capital. They were concerned about their lending being able to access that if there was a Section 57 on title, because those would be some of the interested stakeholders. I will note, just from looking at this from my perspective and as a community member, that of course the 2024 cherry and stone fruit season was a disaster. Many Summerland cherry farmers had a 20% yield on their harvest, which would be really difficult for them earning enough money to do this renovation. And I certainly respect all of the points that you're making. I'm just trying to bring to light this other side of the story, which is they're very separate items. So for me, I've got a little bit of a concern about how to approach that, insofar as council's being quite lenient and trying to give the opportunity to this next generation to take over the business and do right by the property. And then they were slammed with actually 2 consecutive cold weather events that affected their crops. So, this is a really complex case, and I strongly would like to see the building obviously brought into compliance for the safety of the workers who are there. Of course, I think that's our primary goal, but just also understanding that, that the capital that they would have been banking on from 2023 and 2024 was probably lacking. Just thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. Question, in regards to section 57, would the owners then have the opportunity to come to council and use council as a quasi judicial to state a case before section 57? I'm correct?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Patton, yes. So what we're asking for today is to provide notice under the community charter for council's next not next meeting, sorry, May 6th, 2025. It would be the meeting that would be bringing forward this, the actual section 57, and then there'd be an opportunity for the owner to approach council.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Okay, if somebody needs to bring a motion forward, Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, so I'd be willing to bring the motion forward. I just wondering whether we should do each one separately or as a group, and what the impact of one to another is. Any thoughts on that? Our direction, our guidance, or?
Well, you certainly can if you want. I don't know if it's necessary, but maybe I'll ask the corporate officer.
The Mayor to Councilor Barkle, you could consider them separately.
It's entirely up to you.
Okay, well, if that's only a could and not a recommendation that we should, I'll bring forward the motions 1, 2, and 3 as written in the agenda.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Trainer, any discussion? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through our building inspector, number 1, that council direct the owner to bring the property into legally described as XYZ within 30 days after written notice. Is it doable?
I do believe that is probably fairly difficult. Something that could possibly be done with a longer time period. But I also would like to bring the point that this isn't news. This, this is expected. They've had a lot of time. So.
Anybody else? Council Parkwell?
Yeah, it's a little, I guess sometimes you see these things, but you don't really see them in the same way. But when staff mentioned that it's been 18 years of non-compliance with this building, that didn't sit well. And then, it wasn't just last year's bad year. We had very serious discussions with the owners 2 years ago, and yet none of the undertakings and promises and such that have been made or were made at the time have been addressed. So at some point, enough is enough when it comes to health and safety questions. It's almost negligence of council not to address health and safety concerns. And that's why I'll be supporting the motion as it's presented. Staff have done, and it's taking a lot of resources, and it would continue if we, it's just, nothing's going to change until push comes to shove on this. It's obvious.
Thank you. Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think at this time I would be in support of the motion insofar as it gives the landowners an opportunity to come and speak with us again. This is really challenging. I really honor what Councillor Barkwell was saying, and as well our building inspector, that it's been such a long time of non-compliance, and that's very challenging. There's also just other aspects to consider. And so I think that giving them the opportunity to come before council either with a plan or not, that we can discuss that coming up, I think sounds reasonable. Thank you.
Mr. Dalvin, clarification?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. Thank you, Your Worship. For that May 6th meeting and them coming back, it's only with respect to the notice on title. With the remedial action order, there is I think 14-day period where they can provide a request for reconsideration of the order that's been placed. But if council moves forward with this resolution 1, 2, and 3, only item 3 would be coming back before council on May 6th. Thank you.
Councillor Peak and Trainer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Brad, thank you for that clarification. I feel that council has been extremely lenient. There were 2 years in the most recent to give an opportunity for change of circumstances. And I believe that a business has been operating as long as this should have been looking at what funds they have, contingency or otherwise. I will be pleased to hear and speak to them about the Section 57, should they decide to come back and speak to us, but I will be supporting this motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Trainer.
I was wondering if staff could remind me, what kind of liability does the district have or ramifications that could come back to the district if the building code is not upheld and these changes aren't made and something were to happen? Like what kind of risk do we have?
Thank you, Councillor Trainer, or Deputy Mayor Trainer, sorry. As far as liability, the District Summerland is always going to be named in any court cases that may be brought over such an item. These are the steps that show that we are trying to bring the property into compliance, and these are the tools that we have that would aid us in dealing with being named in such actions.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. As we move forward with or if the remedial action does go forward, one thing that we have to really bear in mind is that it's your registered professionals that have to give the repair list of what has to happen to the building. As soon as the District of Summerland intervenes and starts telling the contract, then we take on that liability, and that's what Councillor Trainer is referring. So we have to really make sure that your structural engineer, your architect, are the ones that are directing this and that are leading this remediation process. So just as food for thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. That carries. Moving on to 19, business arising from committee of the whole and closed sessions. Corporate officer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Holmes. I'm just waiting for my speaking notes to open. Oh. Okay, so at the January 21st, 2025 closed session of council passed the following, Steve, can you just skip it to the next, thanks. Council passed a resolution that's on the screen. An update that since the original resolution was passed, the developer has been working with their bank and it appears that the full security will now be provided, subject to legal review. As it is provided, it's unnecessary to require a no build covenant on the property. As the funds have been received and the project is started, council may rise and report on this resolution. No action is required. It's just to bring the motion or the direction forward from closed.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to make any comments? No? Okay, 19.2, please.
Thank you again, Mayor Holmes. So at the February 11th, 2025 closed session, council passed the following resolution regarding the Garnet Valley Tourism Association's request for funds for judicial review. The resolution is on the screen. As this will require an amendment to the financial plan bylaw, council must rise and report on this resolution to move forward. And again, no action is required. It's just to bring it out of closed.
Okay, thank you. Council, any comments? No? Okay, 19.3.
And thank you again. So committee of the whole meetings occur when council in its entirety sits as a committee to consider items in more detail and report its findings and recommendations to the governing body. These findings and recommendations are referred to council for approval. So at the March 4th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting, council and committee passed the following resolution or passed the resolution on the screen regarding the Peach Orchard Playground. So we do need a council resolution to confirm the resolution that's on screen.
Okay, thank you. Does somebody want to bring this forward? Councillor Van Alphen, Councillor Peak, any discussion? We kind of beat it last time. I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. That carries. Notice of motion. Anybody have a notice of motion? No. Councillor Patton? Councillor reports. Anybody have a report? No? Okay, then a motion to adjourn. Councillor Van Alphen, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? That carries. Thanks very much, everybody.